Hello everyone, and it's our new video for Grill Chess channel. We'll be talking about tournament held in Wijk and it's round 4. There were a lot of interesting games. Actually, Gukesh is still playing right now his game against Sarana. Probably he will defend his position. But Arjun Erigaisi is a person that I would like to talk to about because he very surprisingly lost again and he's just half point out of 4. Very strange to see him playing this way after the great Olympiad, etc. I don't know what happened to him. First game he lost with black pieces versus Hare Krishna, then he drew versus Anish Giri in positions that he's supposed to be winning. He had better position. Then he lost versus Prague, and today another spoiler better position. He threw it away with the simple tactics. We'll see it later on. Also, I'll ask you in advance, after you see the video, please type in comments why do you think what's happening to Arjun. Is there kind of psychological problems that he might have, or he's maybe some kind of a tilted player, or just a coincidence that something goes wrong. Today he played, as I said, versus Vladimir Fedoseev, Russian that represents Slovenia now. And d4, he chose the typical queen's pawn opening, that is normal queen's gambit decline, and this line with capture and bishop f4. Usually bishop g5 here is one of the main moves, or bishop f4 straight away, but Arjun decides to release the tension first and then holds bishop f4 and here bishop d6. For those of you who are new to chess, you might think like, why black move bishop twice? Like at first here he went to e7 and in a couple of moves he plays bishop d6, basically because this bishop is very annoying. So black wants to trade it, and he said, well, if you don't want to, you need to play, let's say, bishop g5, but then you wasted tempo as well, right? So bishop g3 probably just always favors black. He can just capture double pawns. There is nothing wrong with h7 pawn, let's say, and so on. But okay, I mean, there is other way to try to not lose the tempos to queen d2, but obviously no one will capture here. We'll play castle and we'll like stay until the tension will be released, but by one of the players. So e3 played by white, and this moves allows Fedoseev to grab on f4. That's what he does, and we reach this incredibly interesting pawn structure. At first looks like white just double pawns for no reason, because e5 is a good square for the knight, but let's not be fooled, this is not an outpost, because f6 can be played at some moment. And for what, right? For what these pawns were doubled? We'll see later. The plan of Arjun here is to castle long, like queen side, and start to attack with the pawn march on the king side. Let's see how it proceeds. Castle, knight e5, knight c6, and f3. As we see here, Arjun already wasted more than 20 minutes for playing f3. Okay, you probably cannot see it, but I'll say you, yeah. f3. If he wants to play positionals, then g3 probably could be played, bishop g2, but his plan was clear. f3 is the move that not just removing the square e4, but also prepares the push with g4, very direct push. f3. Then black needs to react somehow. First of all, we know that development, right? We need to finish development, guys. That's why bishop e6 played, queen d2, and knight e5, and d takes e5. Once again, looks like black is willing to remove these like double pawns. White can capture his f-pawn and to not have it any longer. White, I mean, and just throw knight somewhere back. But okay, what's the point in this situation? Also, black understands that he needs to push his c5. He probably realizes that g4 will be played, etc. So every attack on the side, we reply with a counterplay in the center. It's not exactly counterplay, because after it, pawn takes, knight has to go back, but mainly if we cannot reply it with a counterplay in the center, we can do it on the other side of the board. So c5 needs to be played, knight is an issue, so he captures knight on e5. And now, why d takes? Once again, fe is positional play, but after knight d7, black always have this f6 break on time, and that's not the best position. Let's say after bishop e2, the sample line take, and some kind of c5 maybe, then white can just struggle. White can just struggle a lot, because after these pawns will be traded, the d5 pawn will be better for black than e5 pawn for white. So that's not the best idea. That's why Arjun Erigaisi continues with his plan. He takes with e5 so he can have the majority of the pawns on the king side as well. Knight d7 is played, castle, c6 and g4. White strikes straight away. You might ask why not c5 for black. The point is that pawn was hanging, right, and then white will probably win just positionally, so c6 has been played. g4, and it creates a very important threat of f5. Black has unique move to equalize now. That is obviously played f5. Not so hard to find, like, you know, if you see that the train is running into you, you probably don't want to stay and wait. So I mean, g6 could be also played, but that just creates the point of breakthrough, right? And it's just not a good idea. h4, h5, it's just a hook at some point. So, and if f6 is played with the idea to hide the bishop, then obviously a game ends up in 2 moves with a fork. So f5 is only move straight away, and now knight e2. Once again, you see the engine says that it's a bad move, but practical point of view, it's not there, because we'll see why. According to engine, it's a bad move. Both players didn't find it. First of all, it's true that there was probably no need to go for forcing variations. That's another thing already, because rook g1 probably could have been played, and okay, we just improve our position. Black doesn't have straight way to attack. c5 is still not available, d4 is not there. Probably queen a5 idea is there at some point, trying to go for it, but okay, I mean, it's a bit too slow. Instead, knight e2 is kinda pawn sacrifice. Moreover, it's forcing black to capture on g4, because knight is heading towards d4. Once knight end up here, like, all these kind of ideas appear. And if black tries to stop it, let's say by playing c5, then very strong that pawn takes. Bishop can't take any longer in this case, because d5 hangs, and if rook takes knight g3 followed by f5, and the position of black just falls apart. And okay, if not c5, let's say no b5 or something like that, then obviously knight d4. So there's no way. Black has to accept the pawn. Knight d4, queen e7. Again, this is all forced until now, because once again we can't move bishop, because if we go here, then there is e6 move, and we can try to go probably to f5, but f5 also, it's definitely not the best option. After this, all this pawn avalanche will have to run towards you, bishop d3, and obviously bishop much better than knight in this kind of positions. Let's go back. Queen e7, rook g1. Here all these moves are fine. G takes f3, bishop d3, improving position, king h8. Computer doesn't like this move, and that's what we are talking about. There was idea for black to gain the advantage, but it involves the piece sacrifice. So it was knight c5. Knight c5, obviously it looks very logical. We want either to take the bishop or place knight on e4, that if white takes, black recaptures, and we have to pass pawns here. And f3 pawn is very strong, so probably f5 has to be played, knight takes, queen takes. So looks like black is in big trouble, because if bishop, let's say, were to move after rook g7, brilliant tactics, f6, and black's position falls apart. It's just like a sample line, let's say. But instead, black can play f2 intermediate, and it looks like it's not that important, but after rook has to be moved somewhere, we sacrifice the bishop and we take on e5 with the queen. What's going on now? Looks like even g7 can be taken, but if knight g7, that's the best line of the computer, king h8, suddenly black has 3 pawns for the piece, and he has very strong pawn on f2. His king is more or less safe already, because also knight struggles to go back to the game, because he has to probably go to h5. Yeah, I mean, black obviously cannot capture because queen d4 wins on the spot. So knight escapes, but position is very crucial. But rook g7, king h8 simply wins the game, because now both knight and rook are hanging. So white, in order to save the material, has just one idea, I believe here. Okay, two. One is rook g5, so we defend the knight, but then after simple queen f4, double attack, and after queen d3 or d2 or e3, we can just simply play this move, let's say, we can, so if we recover a piece with a lot of extra pawns, we can promote the queen as well. Like, we can do basically whatever with black. And another one involves the sacrifice and try search for discovery, but there is just none. Let's say knight is like here, knight will be captured, knight e7, knight d6, all this is not dangerous. Let's say queen e4. There will be series of check, but after some point this knight will just be getting trapped. So that was the way to gain decisive advantage for Fedoseev, and obviously from here, you know, from 92 moment, calculate until there was just impossible. So it's not the Arjun's fault. We reached this position, and okay, from now on, Arjun starts to show very high class chess, I must admit, even though his opponent is helping him a bit. c5 was played. I feel like it's true that Fedoseev feels that he needs to do something, otherwise he'll just be crushed with these f5 ideas and so on. But if he would be more calm, let's say after playing rook e8, the position is more or less fine. There's no easy way to proceed, because after another calm move, bishop to g8, the e5 pawn is hanging. If we advance it here, knight c5, knight can go to e4, these pawns are not moving any longer. And suddenly black is very, very okay. I mean, he'll play knight e4, he'll start to push pawns here, and white attack is not there anymore. Instead, c5 looks very strange, because first of all, at some lines, the d5 pawn will be weak, as we saw it before. And here, knight takes f3, obviously good move, knight went away, knight b6, okay, that's this whole of the things that continues this idea. And now Arjun finds this very strong move, rook g5. But okay, I mean, it's not that hard for the player of his level. It's true that then he started to play almost like an engine, one best move after another best move after another best move, until he loses the game with unfortunate blunder. So rook g5, why is it that strong move, but why it's not that difficult to find? White has two ideas. One is to play f5, and other one is to transfer some pieces to h file in order to attack black's king. Rook g5, do both. We cannot pass rook to h file via g3, because h3 square is targeted, the h4 square is targeted, so h5 square is available. In some point rook can head to h5, also f5 could be played as another idea. So double idea of the move. Knight c4, he has to attack, queen simply goes away, threatening mate in 1, g6, knight h4, all the pieces are thrown on the head of Fedoseev. Here it was almost impossible to believe that he will save the game. This rook f1, another move, simply prophylactic, right? Black cannot improve position much. We defend the pawn, we prepare somewhere for f5, we are ready for the sacrifice. Looks like game over. What happens? Rook g8, good move. So when you are down material or down position, you need to try to trade as many pieces as possible in order to keep the game more simple. So after f5, he prepares take and at least trade pair of rooks. Okay, queen g3, another good move. No rush. We bringing pieces closer to the king once again. If we need, maybe we can triplicate. We can throw 5 directly. And now black plays this provocative move, bishop to f5. And that is a really nice trick. That surprising Arjun blunder here with 20 minutes on the clock. Like, he was not in time trouble anyway. First of all, guess, guys, obviously the bishop has to be captured. Which piece would you choose? I think it's obvious that knight has to take here. First of all, let's imagine that there is no tactical issues, right? Knight on f5 is definitely a strong piece, but okay, it's not going anywhere from the square. Instead, if the bishop ends up on f5, right, at some point of the game, then we'll have just pressure on h7. It's true that taking twice immediately loses in both cases. We'll see why. What supposed to be played here by white is to play this b3 intermediate move. Let's say knight has to move somewhere, knight a3, and then we can take on f5. I don't know if Fedoseev would resign the game here or not, but it looks resignable. I mean, equal material, knight out of play. Okay, let's imagine that we push it to other square, maybe more useful, but still it's out of play. And I mean, all the white pieces, pass pawns, this king is getting mated, and black cannot do anything, right? Game would be over. How important is to make the intermediate? So bishop f5 take, g takes f5, and now once again some prophylactic move could be played. For instance, b3 is a good idea. Now it's true that according to engine it's not that simple, because now since bishop is no longer protecting the king, black has very interesting tactical resource to play d4, sacrificing here. Actually it's not possible to take because rook falls, so it's not technically sacrificed, and knight jumps to e3, so position suddenly becomes crazy. That's why also bishop was better to be kept on c2. So as we see, Arjun didn't see any tactics here, so he grabs, he takes, and now he makes this mistake. At first, because I haven't managed to watch it live, I watched it as PGN, I thought at first that, you know, it's typical mistakes that beginners make sometimes, that let's say here we calculate some line, like we take, and then second time we take immediately. Like we pretend that we are smart, we can take on f5, and we can say, well, that's what should supposed to be done, I calculated everything and I see everything ahead. No, Arjun didn't make this mistake. Arjun spent 3 minutes and still didn't see very simple tactic for basic title player, I'm not even saying GM, with 19 minutes. He took with the knight, and we can see, you can pause the video and we can see immediately what is the issue, right? Always, all the coaches, all the book, they teach us to play force moves, like at least to calculate, first of all, force moves. What force moves black has in position here? Queen takes f5 and rook takes g5. Okay, let's say rook g5, queen g5, I can take, maybe I can play rook g8, another forced move, it's true, but after beautiful knight h6, GG. Game over, because queen and rook are attacked. If queen moves, I mean black at least losing the exchange, and if rook takes, there is fork on the king and on the rook, and game over as well. So let's try to see another capture. Queen f5, and it's simple as that. Queen takes, white has to take the queen, because without it there is no way to continue, we're just losing a piece. Rook captures, again, rook has to be captured, and knight e3, white cannot even recover the exchange. Let's say if the pawn of f5 wouldn't exist, maybe white could save the game. Let's say rook f2, take, and play the endgame with one pawn down. But suddenly, that's free piece for Fedoseev. From here, I mean, there's nothing to watch. I don't know even why Arjun kept moving the pieces. Probably he was just annoyed to the situation of that he blundered in really good games that he played. We must admit this. But okay, I mean, that makes sense for a serious player. King f6, take some more moves, and after knight h4, finally resignation came in, because like, I mean, rook e3, knight f3, and okay, there is no need to explain. All the like 1700 plus guy will win this position even against Erigaisi. So with this game, Arjun already goes 20 points, okay, 19.4 points down, as we know with K10. It's hard to achieve this. I mean, it's really painful, because it will be hard to recover all this rating. And since we know that Fabiano qualified for the candidates already, as this year, as I remember, there is no this rating, so it will not, like, rating qualification for the candidates, so it probably will not affect much Arjun. Maybe there is, type me in comments, but still losing rating, it's like less invites, and so ever. It shows that something goes wrong, plus there are a lot of games versus strong opponents. Tomorrow Arjun plays Mendonca. There is a guy I played when I was 2100, and he was like, I know, 8 years old or something, but he was already a FIDE Masters at the time. Mendonca obviously is the weakest player of the tournament, because he doesn't have much experience, and normal. It's normal, but then Fabiano Caruana and a lot of strong players left, like Sarana, Vei, Abdusatorov, his countryman Gukesh. So chat me in comments once again, guys. What do you think? What happens to Arjun? Will he be able to recover from it, and when? Thanks for watching. I would like if you like the video that you can put some likes to the video, chat some comments, so it helps YouTube algorithm to push our video on the next level. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao!